Welcome to Warrior Money, the show devoted to supporting our brother and sister veterans in business. I'm Patrick Murphy.
And I'm Dan Kunze.
In just a few minutes, we'll be talking to Samuel P. Royer about affordable mortgage rates and his efforts to pass the HELPER Act. But first, Under Armour earnings have us thinking about the battle of the brands between Under Armour and Nike. Dan, you noticed we were at the Army-Navy game. It was Navy who unfortunately won the Army-Navy game, who was outfitted by Under Armour. Army, fitted by Nike, by the way, started by an Army veteran, Phil Knight, U.S. Army. What'd you think?
Yeah, both jerseys were fly. Let's be honest with you. They were both awesome. And I every year look forward to the swag that I get to. I'll never wear Navy anything, but I do love it. All right,
well, let's get to our guest because he knows all about the Warrior class. But today we're joined by a Marine veteran and Chief Production Officer at Saloon Home Loans and one of the advocates behind the HELPER Act, which would help make mortgages more affordable for America's everyday heroes. Please welcome Warrior Money, Samuel P. Royer. Samuel, welcome to Warrior Money. Sam, we start out every show by doing bluff right off the jump. So bottom line up front, when you look at basically the transition of troops, when they want to basically access affordable housing, what are some of the biggest hurdles they have to get through?
Well, I think just some of the biggest hurdles, especially being a Marine veteran, leaving the service, you have to have that employment set up. So, one of the things, even within that 12-month period when somebody's getting out, to make sure their employment set is a huge thing. And, a lot of the different aspects that individuals are overcoming is just, that would be the main one I would see. And just making sure that our warriors, our Marines, our sailors, our soldiers are just set up for success is just teaching them about credit, early on. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned, when you said, hey, well, listen, I was making $1,200 in the Marine Corps and I was going to make $1,300 on the outside. But, these troops, they don't realize that you don't get the tax-free BAH, the basic allowance for housing, that you're paying usually higher taxes when you leave. So I appreciate you being a subject matter expert on that and really working through it, because we do have 200,000 of our brothers and veterans that leave active service that become veterans every single year. So we have to make sure we empower them with the right information.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. So we talk a lot about the skills and transitions. And one of the things that we don't talk about is the transition from government provided housing on installations and posts into private housing. So can you talk a little bit about the hurdles that current veterans are facing in finding a housing in today's housing market?
Well, I just think the cost of housing in itself, when you're on base, you're not worried about how much does that house cost, because you're just getting placed there, be it the enlisted section, the officer section, or whatnot. Now, I'm a little bit south of Jacksonville, Florida, even though I am from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
There you go.
Patrick. Oh, there you go. PA.
But, yeah, I'm actually flying up there tomorrow. But being, a little bit south of Jacksonville, obviously NAS Jax, Mayport's right there. And you just go off a base and housing has exponentially, gone up. So the affordability factor is something that a lot of these military members, as much as they're trying to stay within their BH area, sometimes just the rate hikes or where rates are now and the housing costs, it's less affordable. So it's something they really have to budget for.
Yeah, we often talk about, a lot of our guests, we talk about finding purpose post-military service. And then a lot of that just so happens to translate into helping brother and sister veterans do great things. So you're really interested in the HELPER Act. Can you tell us a little bit more what the HELPER Act is?
Well, I'm actually the gentleman that came up with the idea of the HELPER Act, and I've been fortunate enough to work with Congressman John Rutherford, Bonnie Watson Coleman from New Jersey, and these individuals, Senator Rubio, who now I think is Secretary of State. I didn't see if he got confirmed.
Yeah, he did.
And then John Ossoff from Georgia. These individual leaders have chosen to take on the challenge of getting the same type of VA home loan benefits that all of us have for those individuals that serve in our community. So as an example, I never served in a combat zone. I'm very proud to be a Marine, but it's something that a lot of my best friends are cops, Allentown, Bethlehem, down here in Daytona Beach, Flagler County, Florida. These individuals are serving tirelessly in their communities, and they didn't get in those jobs to become millionaires. They got in their jobs just like we did in the military to serve our country. They got into it to serve their communities. And Senator Rubio, prior to him being Secretary of State, he really said it best. He said, when affordability in the community that you serve is unattainable, it's something that we have to fight for. And that's what the Helper Act is. So I came up with the concept of Helper, homes for every local protector, educator, and responder. And since about 2021, 2 Congresses ago, we've been fighting the fight to try and get this bill passed to make it more affordable for those individuals in our communities.
I love that. And just briefly, how does it actually address the problems that you've seen for that community of people?
So it takes the best of what a VA home loan does and it kind of carbon copies it under an FHA loan. So if you serve as at least 4 years in law enforcement, firefighting, teaching, and EMT or paramedic, what would happen is you would go to any FHA lender that's an FHA lender in the country. And as long as you had that criteria and you're a first-time home buyer, you can buy a house where instead of putting the 3.5% down that FHA requires, you would have to put 0 down. You also would have a cheaper monthly payment because there's not a monthly mortgage insurance, just like a VA home loan. So it really does help kind of combat the biggest hurdles people are having right now in down payment and monthly payment.
Yeah, it's really a shame. Like we do see. So I lived in Nashville, Tennessee for a while. And you live in
Okay.
any of these major metropolitan areas, and you really do. It's really hard for people that serve the local community to also live in the communities when they're being priced out of the areas that they need to be. So like,
Yeah.
where does it, like, first of all, like, where did you find your passion for that problem? Like, how did you identify that?
Just
It's a really
because
big issue.
doing mortgages 28 years and sitting across from people where you have to tell them they can't afford a house. As an example, I had a teacher in St. Johns County, which is basically St. Augustine, Florida. She was actually putting $60,000 down. She had no debt, and she actually had a very high credit score. But she couldn't afford a house in actually the county south, Flagler County, where I live, because of her debt ratio. And that's because she didn't make enough to actually qualify for the mortgage payment. I just had a firefighter where his dad had a cosign, and this young man did not have a lot of debt. He actually had a couple bucks to put down, but he couldn't afford a house. And so I just found it upon myself. Some people say I'm crazy, but I found a man in Congressman Rutherford. He's 42 years law enforcement, 3 terms as sheriff of Jacksonville, Florida. And this man just has a heart to serve. And we just started fighting the fight, knocking on doors, and to have a massive grassroots effort. In fact, my lead lobbyist in not in Pennsylvania, Washington, is Charlie Dent's former chief of staff, George McElwee, so of the reserve component. So, we just we've been hooking and jabbing with the best of them. And at this point, we need all the voices out there to talk about this because affordability is just killing our community leaders.
Yeah, I don't think the answer, and I think we can speak for ourselves, is just to give people the money. I don't think
Yep.
that solves the systematic problem that we're talking about. So it really is.
Can I jump in with something on that one?
I would
Because
love
this is
I
the
would
best
love for
part.
you to. Yeah, please go ahead.
And I'm going to call you Congressman, Captain. I'm not sure what to call you,
Call me Dan.
Patrick or
Patrick
Dan.
Murphy,
Yeah.
but here's the thing, Congressman, you can say everybody talks about subsidies, right? The crazy part about the Helper Act, just like with a VA and an FHA loan, this is not a subsidy-based program. We are not asking the federal government, hey, can you throw a bunch of money aside so that we actually can sit there and give people money so they can afford a house? FHA is an insurance program. And what it does, it basically says that lender, go lend money, and we're going to ensure that if for some reason they go into foreclosure, there's an issue, you can come to us and we're going to give you money from the insurance fund. Well, that insurance fund is called the MMIF fund, the Mutual Mortgage Insurance Fund. That fund right now, Congressman, if I came to you while you were serving in Congress and I said, sir, we would like to do something, and that fund is 500% overfunded. So the fact is, we're probably not going to liquidate it anytime soon, especially with people that keep their jobs.
Right.
So the 2006 crisis, guys, happened because of a lot of fraud, a lot of employment problems where people lied about their employment. Well, we're talking about cops, teachers, firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics. We just had a pandemic. We've had economic downturn. But the fact of the matter is, these individuals are the ones that keep their jobs through those hard times. And the first thing they're most likely to pay is their mortgage. So at the end of the day, this is a non-subsidy. We're not asking taxpayers to fund this. In fact, the premiums that go in from FHA all go into that fund. And with that fund having so much money in it, this really is a risk the federal government doesn't have to really worry about, the taxpayer doesn't have to worry about, and a congressman or senator can feel very good about going to their constituents to say, hey guys, we're getting this benefit for you because we care about your service first. And second, we care about the tax dollar. So we're not going to spend it, but we're going to help people.
That's right. We're going to leverage that backstop that the federal government could do to allow the folks that we call in the warrior class to use leverage to go get that first home. And whether you're a cop or firefighter, if you wear the cloth of our country, you've earned that right. So we love the HELPER Act. We're going to help amplify it. But we're going to be right back with you, Samuel. So bear with us. We're going to go for a break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Warrior Money. We're here with Samuel P. Royer. Samuel, we just left off talking about the HELPER Act and how we have to help those folks like cops, firefighters, educators, first responders, and the military, folks that frankly shower after work than before work, and how that they can access the HELPER Act to get their first home and use that for leverage to start a new life and have that economic success. Why are you so passionate about this, and what triggered it?
Mine was I gave up my Marine Corps career way too early. I always had that calling to serve, and honestly, some of my best friends are Daytona cops, Allentown cops, and others, and teachers. I mean, I went to high school with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and actually, I ran into him at the Daytona 500. And the funny thing about Dwayne is that our football coach, who was a teacher, changed his life to the point that he actually was on Oprah, pretty much had a tear in his eye when he talked about it, how a teacher changed the trajectory of his life, right? And that same football coach who was a teacher was very crucial in my life as well. So teachers, they're unfortunately, like you look, I forgot where it was, but something just happened where a teacher died, right? Firefighters. I don't know if you guys ever put on that gear, but I went in a firefighter competition. I was fortunate enough they asked me to do it. Man, the claustrophobia kicked in, and it was not something that I would want to do on a daily basis. And at the end of the day, police officers, obviously, they're there to protect and serve. They used to be called peace officers. And the fact is that our society has just changed. So I just had a big calling on my heart to trying to find an affordable option for them. And being that I have the benefit, we have the benefit of a VA home loan, I kind of knew the back workings. And then I just found a leader in Congressman Rutherford, Senator Ossoff, and more to go challenge and fight the fight.
Yeah, well, Samuel, tell us the origin story of why you became a Marine. I mean, you could have been on America's varsity team like Dad and I in the Army, but Army stands for aren't ready to be Marine yet. You joined the Marine Corps, which is muscles are required, intelligence not essential. We like to have a good time here, but honestly, what made you join the Marine Corps? How old were you? Did you join when you're up in Pennsylvania or when you're down in Florida?
I'm from Pennsylvania. I left there when I was 17, and I was in boot camp and turned 18 in boot camp. I just was that kid that was never going to go to college and do anything crazy. My cousin was a Marine, and I remember calling my dad. My dad worked at Lincoln Tech in Allentown, was a teacher. And I just called him. I said, Dad, I think I can go in the Marines. He goes, that's a good idea. And that was it. And actually, weirdly enough, my best friends are still the recruiters that put me in the Marine Corps, 30 some years later. And I served under General Mattis. I talked to him not too recently. It's one of those things that I've been fortunate enough. Paul McHale, you probably remember that name.
Of course, yeah, Congressman. Yeah.
Yep. So he was somebody that I was close to his staff. I've got to meet some of the greatest leaders in the world, and seeing those men in their service to our country also inspired me. And to be honest with you, General Mattis really hit me hard when I talked to him, because I did give up my Marine Corps career too early. I was too immature. And I'll never forget, he said, Corporal Royer, he said, there's this thing called Google. And he said, before I called you, I looked you up. And he said, what I can tell you is this. I see that you're serving, and you don't have to wear a uniform to continue to serve. And I mean, I was a 40-some-year-old man with tears coming down my eyes. I still have his letter of recommendation on my wall over here when I was, a young, 20-year-old kid. But so it's just something that I felt we needed to do. And, it's been an honor, to be honest with you, the last 4 years. My organization, Capital Mortgage Services, and other organizations that back me up. But now it's up to guys like you to spread the word, because we do have some people that aren't really in favor. And they're very staunch Republicans that don't believe in federal help for people, but we have to change your mind.
Yeah. So what can we do to help to support? What can our audience do? What can we do broadly to help? I know like advocacy is great, but who needs to get a phone call? That's the question.
Yeah, really. I'm trying to get with President Trump. I have some sheriffs that are reaching out, and hopefully going to get a meeting with him, and hopefully it'll go top down. Obviously, I talked to General Mattis when he was my regimental commander as a colonel, so I think I like the top down theory a lot. But we've tried everything. Pat Toomey, the first Congress, the 117th Congress, unfortunately blocked the bill, or didn't block the bill. He didn't even allow it to come to Senate banking, even though we had so much bipartisan support. This last Congress, unfortunately, Tim Scott did not allow it to go through the NDAA, which it would have passed the Senate. And then we had Patrick McHenry on the other side. Now we have Tim Scott, chair of Senate banking. And then we have Congressman French Hill, or Chairman Hill, from Little Rock, Arkansas. Those two men are both very aware of this bill, to change their minds as to why this should be an affordable option for those that serve, even though they love those that serve. It's up to all your audience and everybody in America to let them know why this is an important facet. And if President Trump happens to tell them, I'm sure the pendulum, I believe is the saying, will swing differently. But all the support we can get. I mean, we had over 600 guys, 600 national, statewide, local organizations. We had 145 congressional leaders, and I believe we ended up with 31 or 32 senators on the bill, bipartisan. You don't get that in America much anymore. And we had it. And unfortunately, people just don't want to listen. So
It's kind of there's a poetry, a beautifulness in the fact that you joined when you were 17, you turned 18 in basic training. You admittedly said you left too early, and now you're at the highest levels of government trying to continue your service in the way that you're trying to do it. There's some beautiful poetry somewhere in there. We'll have to figure that out.
Well, something like this too. If President Trump heard this, I can't believe he won't see 3 military members sitting here talking. And the fact is, we're fighting for cops, teachers, and firefighters. I mean, some people have asked us, is military members against this? Will this take away from the VA? This had nothing to do with the VA. And at the end of the day, if a cop is a military member, they're most likely going to use their VA, because if they have a service connected, they don't have to pay a funding fee. Where the Helper Act, there's still a mortgage insurance, but it's paid one time up front. That's it. So if President Trump saw this, I can't imagine he wouldn't get behind this. But it takes a lot to get to him. And then on the other side is that really just all the organizations we have. I mean, we all can joke about Navy, Army, Marines and stuff, right? So you joke about the Army, Navy, right? They're like opposite ends. Well, we have a letter that literally went to the leaders in the Senate and the Congress last year, which, Congressman, that's kind of, when you're sending a letter to leadership, it should be pretty impactful. We had the FOP, Fraternal Order of Police, and the International Association of Firefighters. Kind of like the Army, Navy. Those guys always seem to butt heads, right? But we had a joint letter with both their logos on top that clearly went to all leadership saying, we're firefighters, we're cops. We believe in this bill. But again, it comes down to politics.
Yeah, and I think for the viewers out there, it's if they're there, you just ping your congressman, congresswoman, senator, and say, hey, what's up? I just read about this Helper Act. I saw this Weird Money podcast. Are you a co-sponsor? And then obviously, give them information from your website, et cetera. Where can people find your website and more information about this?
So the official website, because there's a lot of different people that are kind of playing off this, but the official website is www.passthehelperact.org. Now, the site that is currently up is the old bill, the 118th Congress. What we're understanding, we still have a lot of work to do, but most likely the new bill will be introduced sometime around March. So at that point, we'll have the website up more, call it more up to date for the 119th Congress. But for right now, any information somebody needs, they can go to that website, they can see it. My company, SaluteHomeLoans.com, they can go there and there's some videos. I actually have a video on there that's kind of like a recap of the last 4 years to talk, and it's only 2 minutes long, but it talks about where we were and where we're going in 2025. So pretty much those places, or they can reach out to me. Look, if somebody out there in your world sets up a Zoom call with a congressman, a senator, I would love to jump on.
Or the
And look,
president.
I don't take the credit.
Yeah.
This is not the Sam Royer bill. This is the Helper Act, and it's for cops, teachers, and firefighters. Because at the end of the day, for me, even though I'm the visionary of the bill, I will be 18 rows back. There will be 18 rows of congressmen and senators, and I might see my hair standing up, and that's about all you're going to see.
Yeah.
That's a credit. That's the credit I get.
And Sam, I want to foot stomp this because I think it's important. We covered it earlier, but this is a bill that doesn't really cost taxpayer money. This is a bill just leveraging their good credit, their good name, their good profession, that they have a 9 to 5. They are on the job for our communities, our community heroes. And at the backstop is, okay, if something bad happens, that's the backstop if they don't get through. But it's not throwing a ton of money at them. It's just saying, hey, we're going to, you back us, we're going to back you, we got your back. And that's what the Helper Act's all about.
It's the federal government just doing exactly what they do for veterans in a way.
Yeah.
And all the premiums it's already massively funded. So, that's the thing, to be honest with you, Congressman, we've had nobody that has really hit us with anything of substance to say why this is bad. Nobody has given us clear data. And if anything, we've given everybody clear data. I had one congressman that I met with personally where their local state down payment assistance would cost $300 more a month versus the Helper Act.
Yep.
And I'm like, here it's pretty clear as day. But again, that individual was a Republican that was very staunch. And I'm a registered Republican. But they were like, we just don't like government to have this type of influence. Yep. Some people don't like FHA, and FHA's been around since 1934.
Yeah, but it's just giving them, but it's just giving them options. Hey, listen, we'll end the thing on our Warrior Q&A. We got one question.
Question. What's some money advice that you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger?
Save. Yeah, save.
Save.
Don't spend it on stupid stuff.
Compound interest is key. Compound interest, it's magic. And also, it's with your health, too. You work out now, you're banking that workouts. Yeah. So when you're older, you don't want to start until you're 50, 60 years old.
And honestly, invest in things you believe in.
Yeah. So. Yep. Something that you're passionate. But hey, Sam, you are a definition of a Marine, that you are still living a purpose-driven life. We salute you. We appreciate you joining us. But listen, that's our show. Listen, subscribe, and review Warrior Money on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts, or find us at Yahoo Finance. I'm Patrick Murphy.
And I'm Dan Kunze. We'll see you next week.